Hey guys, tonight we're going on a journey. Picture this, you're trekking through the dense jungles of South America, feeling the humidity cling to your skin as you push through vines and thick foliage. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the ground, and you've been walking for hours, no signs of life, just the sounds of chirping insects and distant birds. But something keeps you moving forward, the promise of a city made entirely of gold. Welcome to the legendary El Dorado, a place that has lured explorers for centuries, a mythical city of wealth that many believed could change their lives forever. You probably won't survive this quest, but hey, that's what makes it interesting. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and let me know what time it is where you are. I'm curious to see where our adventure is reaching tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The legend of El Dorado, as captivating as it is, starts not in the Amazon rainforest, but deep in the heart of European imagination. This mysterious city, said to be covered in gold, became the holy grail of the Spanish conquistadors. Its allure was intoxicating, and its search would shape the history of the Americas for centuries. But where did this story begin? How did a city made of gold end up on maps and in the dreams of explorers from all over the world? Historians trace the earliest mentions of El Dorado back to the first interactions between the Spanish and the indigenous people of South America. In the early 1500s, the Spanish explorers arrived on the shores of the Americas, and with them came a craving for wealth, specifically gold. It didn't take long for the tales of the native tribes to begin weaving into this gold-crazed frenzy. The Muisca people, one of the indigenous tribes of present-day Colombia, were the source of much of the myth. They were known for their rituals, and one of the most fascinating stories involved a chief often referred to as El Dorado, who covered himself in gold dust and dove into a lake as part of a ceremonial offering to the gods. But this wasn't enough to quench the Spaniards' thirst. They heard these stories and their imaginations ran wild. The gold-covered chief became a mythical figure, and the lake transformed into a city, a sprawling metropolis glittering with gold just waiting to be discovered. Historians still argue whether the Muisca actually believed in such a golden city, or whether they simply had a custom that the Spanish misinterpreted. Either way, the tale was set in motion, and explorers like Gonzalo Pizarro and Francisco de Orellana would later venture into the heart of South America with one goal in mind: El Dorado. Imagine you're standing in a bustling Spanish port, the salty sea breeze brushing your face as ships prepare to sail. You're about to join an expedition, and your mission is clear. Find the legendary city of El Dorado, a treasure trove that promises unimaginable riches. You've heard the stories, and now it's your turn to make history or meet your end in the jungle. It's a high-stakes gamble, but you're not alone. There are hundreds of men on this mission, each one ready to risk everything for the glory of discovering a city that is perhaps too fantastical to exist. Before you embark, let's rewind a bit. El Dorado wasn't always the grand golden city we imagine today. In the beginning, it was just a rumor, a whisper carried from one conquistador to the next. The legend of El Dorado grew slowly, and with each retelling becoming more and more alluring. It was first mentioned by Spanish explorer Martin Waldseemüller in the early 1500s, though he didn't claim to have discovered it firsthand. That didn't stop the myth from taking root. At first, the story wasn't about a city at all. It was about a golden king. Historians suggest that the myth likely grew from an exaggerated account of the Muisca's El Dorado ritual. The Golden King, said to rule over the Muisca, people was supposedly covered in gold dust during a sacred ceremony. The Spanish naturally began to imagine this as a king whose entire kingdom must be made of gold. This idea became deeply embedded in the Spanish psyche, fueling countless expeditions across the Americas. But there's a twist: historians still debate whether the Golden King ever truly existed. Some argue that it was entirely a fabrication based on the Spanish thirst for gold and their misinterpretation of indigenous customs. Others think that there was a kernel of truth to the legend. Either way, it didn't matter. The Spanish were already deep in their quest to find El Dorado, convinced that they were following a trail to unimaginable riches. Gonzalo Pizarro, one of the most famous of the conquistadors, was among the first to go after El Dorado. In the 1530s, he led an ill-fated expedition into the interior of South America, desperate to uncover the city of gold. The farther they went, the more isolated they became. The jungle, hostile and unforgiving, was the perfect foil for their ambitions. Yet, despite all the suffering and hardship, the promise of El Dorado lingered just out of reach. Historians still argue whether Pizarro's failure was inevitable from the start. Was the myth just too powerful, too compelling for any human being to dismiss? Or did Pizarro simply misread the signs? One thing's for sure: the legend of El Dorado was far from over. You're trudging through thick, oppressive heat. The jungle around you is dense, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The further you push into the wild, the more the sounds of civilization fade away, replaced by the constant buzz of insects and the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. The hope that this journey might lead to something, anything, keeps you going even as exhaustion gnaws at your body. You've been told that El Dorado is just beyond the next river, just beyond the next ridge, but that next step always seems to take you further into uncertainty. By this point in history, the search for El Dorado had become a fevered pursuit. The myth had taken on a life of its own, growing larger and more exaggerated with each new telling. The original story, rooted in the Muisca people's ritual of covering their king with gold dust, had transformed into something entirely different, a city built from the precious metal itself. And now, the race to find this elusive city of gold was on. As explorers pushed into the wilds of South America, they encountered native tribes, some friendly, some not. The Spanish soldiers, already convinced that El Dorado was real, began to interpret everything they encountered as clues to its location. This quest was fueled not only by greed, but by the same sense of destiny that had propelled previous explorers, the belief that they were chosen to uncover the truth of the New World. The further they traveled, the more the line between myth and reality blurred. Historians often note that the expeditions into the Amazonian heartland were in many ways doomed from the start. The explorers relied on a mixture of flawed geography and local rumors, trying to piece together an intricate puzzle with missing pieces. While the Spanish were feverishly pursuing gold, the indigenous peoples were often skeptical of the newcomers' motives. Many of the myths and legends about El Dorado may have been distorted versions of local stories adapted and twisted by Europeans desperate to justify their hunts. One of the most infamous figures in the quest for El Dorado was Francisco de Orellana. Orellana was part of an expedition that set out to explore the Amazon River, hoping it would lead to riches beyond their wildest dreams. The journey began in 1541, with Orellana's group splitting off from a larger expedition led by Gonzalo Pizarro. The men had heard rumors of gold-rich lands to the east, and Orellana, with his own dreams of glory, believed that the Amazon was the key. But the journey didn't go as planned. After months of grueling travel, the expedition became lost. Supplies dwindled. Morale sank, and one by one the men began to die from disease starvation and attacks from hostile tribes. Orellana and his remaining crew eventually found their way down the Amazon River, but they never encountered the golden city they had been promised. Instead, they had become part of the myth themselves, their tale feeding into the growing legend of El Dorado. Historians still argue whether Orellana's expedition was truly a failure, or if it in fact helped shape the El Dorado legend. Orellana never found the Golden City, but his journey down the Amazon contributed to the idea that the heart of the jungle contained untold treasures. It was this sense of potential wealth, an idea based more on speculation than fact, that would continue to drive future expeditions. The search for El Dorado for many became less about discovering a physical city, and more about chasing a dream of wealth, power, and immortality. But it's hard to know if anyone truly believed the city was there anymore. The quest had taken on an almost mythical quality, with each failure only adding fuel to the fire. You're getting weary now. Days stretch into weeks as you slog through uncharted terrain with nothing but the deep jungle and a vague sense of promise to keep you going. Every creak of the branches, every distant roar of a jaguar serves to remind you that you are a long way from the comforts of civilization. Still, the idea of El Dorado lingers like a golden mirage in the distance, driving you forward. At this point, the expeditions were becoming an endless cycle of disappointment. One by one, the ambitious leaders who set out to find El Dorado were swallowed up by the relentless wilderness, their dreams crushed by the unyielding reality of the South American jungle. But that didn't stop the explorers. The myth of El Dorado continued to fuel their pursuit even as it morphed and changed over time. After Gonzalo Pizarro's failed expedition and Orellana's disastrous journey, the focus began to shift. The legend of El Dorado had shifted from a golden city in the mountains to a broader myth of untapped riches hidden somewhere in the vast expanse of the New World. It was no longer just about finding the city. It was about finding the path to unimaginable wealth buried deep within the land, just waiting to be discovered by the right man. In the 1560s, a new figure entered the stage, Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh, an Englishman, had heard whispers of the Golden City from the Spanish, and was eager to claim the glory for himself. He set sail in 1595, convinced that he could discover El Dorado and bring its riches back to England. Raleigh's expedition into the jungles of South America would ultimately fail, much like the others before him, but not without furthering the legend. Raleigh's journey took him to the Orinoco River in present-day Venezuela, where he believed the Golden City awaited. Armed with his dream of fame and wealth, Raleigh explored the region, mapping the area and encountering indigenous peoples who had their own versions of the El Dorado story. Raleigh, like the others before him, found no gold, but his exploration only deepened the belief that El Dorado was somewhere out there just beyond reach. Historians still argue whether Raleigh's efforts were a genuine attempt to uncover a real treasure, or if he was merely following a myth that had become too powerful to let go. Some believe that Raleigh knew the Golden City might not exist, but he pressed on, driven by the belief that such a discovery would make him famous forever, cementing his name in history. His search helped solidify the El Dorado myth in popular culture, especially in England, where it inspired future expeditions. Despite the failure of Raleigh's mission, the story of El Dorado continued to live on, growing more grandiose and impossible with each new retelling. With each new expedition, the dream of finding the Golden City became a symbol not just of exploration, but of the dangers and allure of human ambition. It was a story of treasure and promise, but also of loss, obsession, and failure. Historians debate the true nature of Raleigh's quest. Was he a true adventurer seeking real riches, or was he just another player in a game of myth and madness? His efforts, like those of the Spaniards before him, illustrate how the search for El Dorado wasn't just about gold, it was about the quest for meaning, for greatness, for something bigger than life itself. As the sun sets, the jungle around you grows darker, and the air feels heavier, as though the weight of all the failed quests is pressing down on your chest. Each step is slower than the last, but still the promise of gold keeps you moving forward, pushing against the odds. You've heard the stories of those who have come before you, those who vanished into the jungle, never to return. But you keep going, convinced that El Dorado is just beyond the next hill, the next river, the next bend. By the early 1600s, the search for El Dorado had taken on an almost mythical quality. The fever for gold had driven so many explorers mad that it was hard to distinguish between truth and legend. There were those who believed in the Golden City with such passion that they were willing to disregard the failures of the past and forge ahead into the unknown, even as their resources dwindled and their men grew sick. One of the more intriguing aspects of the El Dorado myth is how it was shaped by the explorer's obsession with gold. While earlier expeditions had focused on the idea of a golden city, by the time of Raleigh's quest, the search had become more about uncovering riches, anything that could be traded, mined, or plundered. In this sense, El Dorado became less about a literal city of gold, and more about a symbol of boundless opportunity, the ultimate reward for anyone brave enough to venture into the unknown. Historians often wonder whether the search for El Dorado was an exercise in delusion or a result of real hope. The idea that a city made of gold could exist was rooted in the same logic that had led explorers to chart unknown lands for centuries. When Columbus set sail in the late 1400s, he was driven by a similar hunger for discovery and fortune. In many ways, the search for El Dorado was an extension of that same spirit of exploration, a belief that the world was full of undiscovered treasures waiting for the right person to claim them. But despite the growing belief in the city's existence, there were those who began to question whether the whole thing had been a wild goose chase from the start. Many, including later explorers, began to recognize that the terrain, the culture, and the sheer scale of the Amazonian jungle were more than human ambition could handle. The search for El Dorado had consumed countless lives, and yet the city remained as elusive as ever. Historians still debate whether El Dorado was a real place that simply eluded discovery, or if it was a creation of European fantasies built on the foundation of indigenous myths and embellished by the fevered imaginations of explorers. Some argue that it was the very idea of El Dorado that drove men into the heart of the jungle, not the hope of finding an actual city, but the possibility that somewhere in the vastness of the New World riches awaited. Others contend that the myth was simply too powerful to die its allure, far too compelling for anyone to abandon, even when the evidence pointed to the contrary. Even as the expeditions grew fewer and fewer, the myth of El Dorado persisted, influencing everything from local folklore to pop culture. It was no longer just a city to be discovered. It was a symbol of the dream that any adventurer at any time could change the course of history by finding the right place, the right treasure. It was the embodiment of the ultimate discovery, the one that would make everything else worthwhile. The days have turned into weeks, and now months. The jungle feels like it's slowly eating you alive, its heat relentless, and its sounds deafening. You've become part of the landscape now, your clothing tattered, your skin burned from the relentless sun, and the once vibrant hope you had for finding El Dorado has faded, replaced by a creeping realization that the city you seek may not exist at all. But still, the legend drives you forward. By the late 17th century, the pursuit of El Dorado had taken on a life of its own. The myth had become so deeply embedded in the collective imagination of explorers that it was hard to tell where reality ended and fantasy began. While some expeditions had completely failed, others were still setting out convinced that the Golden City was somewhere out there waiting to be found. Yet each new failure only seemed to fuel the myth, further turning it from a geographical pursuit into something more elusive, an ideal, an unattainable dream. For many of the explorers, it wasn't the gold that they sought anymore. It was the glory. The search for El Dorado had become a test of endurance, a personal challenge that stretched the limits of human strength and resolve. Those who set out for the Golden City often did so with the understanding that they may never return. Some historians suggest that for many explorers, this pursuit had become less about the destination and more about the journey itself, a way to prove their worthiness and their place in the annals of history. Perhaps one of the most striking examples of this transformation came with the expeditions in the late 1600s. The explorers were no longer focused on the city of gold itself, but on the idea of it. Some had even begun to question whether El Dorado was a literal place at all, or whether it was simply a metaphor for human ambition and the endless search for meaning and wealth. It's easy to dismiss the search for El Dorado as nothing more than a fantasy, a wild goose chase for something that never existed. But the legend is a powerful reminder of the lengths to which humans will go when driven by a dream. The story of El Dorado is about much more than just gold. It's about our relentless desire to reach beyond what is possible to chase something greater than ourselves, even when the odds are stacked against us. Historians still debate whether the search for El Dorado was ever truly worth it. Some argue that the explorers wasted their lives chasing a dream, while others contend that the quest itself had a value beyond the discovery of gold. After all, the myth of El Dorado-fueled exploration led to the mapping of vast areas of the Americas and influenced generations of adventurers who followed in their footsteps. But the city itself, as expected, was never found. There were no vast treasures of gold waiting to be discovered in the jungles of South America. Instead, the treasure was in the search itself, the pursuit that shaped the course of history. El Dorado had become something more than just a physical location. It had become an enduring symbol of human desire, an impossible dream that could never be attained, but which would continue to drive men to the ends of the earth. And still, the legend persists. Even today, people search for El Dorado, though the myth has morphed into something more complex. It's no longer just about gold, but about finding the unattainable, the hidden treasure that might just be the key to everything we've ever wanted. The heat of the jungle begins to gnaw at you in a way that's almost physical. You feel as though the world itself is pushing back against you, trying to stop you from ever reaching that elusive goal. The air is thick, heavy with moisture, and every breath seems harder to take. It's like the jungle is alive, trying to swallow you whole. But still, you keep moving forward, driven by a belief that El Dorado is just one more ridge away, one more river to cross. The endless pursuit of El Dorado began to change, not just the way explorers viewed the world, but also how the world viewed them. By the 18th century, the quest had become a matter of legacy, something that explorers could attach their names to. Men who set out on these expeditions knew that, whether they succeeded or failed, they would forever be tied to the myth. Their names would be remembered, and they would become part of the great story of human ambition. But despite their efforts, no one ever truly uncovered the Golden City. Instead, what they left behind were tantalizing fragments of clues that only fueled the myth further. Every new expedition left behind more stories, more half-finished maps, and more questions than answers. The search for El Dorado became a collection of tantalizing what-ifs, with each failed mission adding a layer to the story's complexity. Historians still argue about the motivations of these explorers. Were they genuinely seeking treasure, or was the idea of El Dorado more important to them than anything tangible? Some scholars suggest that by the time the expeditions reached their peak, El Dorado had evolved from a literal city into something more symbolic, a concept representing ultimate discovery, the end goal of all human striving. Perhaps the real treasure was not in the gold, but in the search itself, the pursuit that allowed men to push the boundaries of human knowledge and ambition. But even after centuries of exploration, the truth remained elusive. It's as if El Dorado had taken on a life of its own, becoming less of a place and more of a metaphor for human longing, the desire for something more, something unattainable. The quest for El Dorado represented the endless chase for the ideal, the unreachable, and the unknowable. In this sense, the search for the city was more about understanding humanity's own limitations than about discovering a physical location. Even today, the myth of El Dorado still captivates the imagination. While the conquistadors and later explorers failed in their search, modern-day adventurers and treasure hunters continue to look for traces of the city. Some believe it exists somewhere deep in the Amazon, hidden from sight by centuries of jungle growth. Others think that El Dorado was never a city at all, but a metaphor for the riches of the New World. Yet, despite all the modern technology at our disposal, no one has ever truly found the fabled city. The reason the legend persists, even in the face of repeated failures, is simple. It represents something much larger than just gold. El Dorado is about the human desire to conquer the unknown, to discover something that will forever change the course of history. It's a dream of immortality, of finding something that no one else has ever seen or touched. And that dream is something that no amount of failure can ever fully extinguish. Historians debate whether El Dorado was ever a real place or just a legend that became too powerful to dismiss. Some argue that the myth was a creation of European fantasies, a way to explain the unexplored wilderness they encountered. Others believe that El Dorado might have been based on real gold-rich kingdoms, but that the Spanish misinterpreted the stories they heard. The truth, as is often the case with myths, is elusive, and perhaps that's what keeps us searching. The idea that El Dorado could still be out there somewhere just beyond the horizon keeps the myth alive even today. The sun beats down on your neck, and you can feel the weight of centuries of failure resting on your shoulders. Yet, despite the oppressive heat and the exhaustion that has settled deep in your bones, you can't shake the feeling that you're close. Maybe this time you'll find it. Maybe this time you'll be the one who uncovers the fabled city of El Dorado and brings its riches into the light. It's a powerful thought, isn't it? To be the one to find what so many others have sought and failed to find for hundreds of years. The treasure of El Dorado is more than just gold. It's about the pursuit, the adventure, the idea that you could be the one to succeed where others have failed. but after centuries of searching, the story of El Dorado became a twisted web of myths, half-truths, and wild speculation. The early explorers had imagined a city of unimaginable wealth, yet over time the myth had transformed into something far greater. El Dorado became the embodiment of human desire, the ultimate treasure that would make anyone who found it immortal in history. It no longer mattered whether the city existed or not. The mere idea of it was enough to keep the explorers moving forward, pushing past the physical limits of endurance and the harsh realities of the jungle. In the 18th century, the myth was still alive even as the search began to fade. The Spanish no longer had the resources to send out large expeditions, and the British, who had picked up the torch in the wake of Raleigh's failure, were distracted by their own imperial ambitions. Yet the dream of El Dorado lived on not just in the jungles of South America, but in the minds of adventurers and treasure hunters all over the world. Historians still argue about the role that El Dorado played in the development of colonialism. Some suggest that the myth was used as a way to justify the exploration and exploitation of the New World, while others believe that it was a genuine reflection of the European obsession with wealth and glory. What is clear, however, is that El Dorado was not just a city. It was a symbol of the unquenchable thirst for riches and adventure that defined an entire era of exploration. Yet, even as the search for El Dorado became more of a distant memory, its impact on the culture of the Americas remained undeniable. The myth had inspired countless stories, both real and fictional, about treasure hunts, hidden cities, and the dream of discovering something that would change the course of history. It would go on to influence everything from literature to cinema, inspiring works like The Lost City of Zed, and films like The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. But despite all the modern fascination with the myth, El Dorado remains as elusive as ever. No one has found the Golden City, not in the Amazon, not in the Andes, and certainly not in the endless stories that have been told about it. Some argue that El Dorado never existed at all, that it was nothing more than a myth that evolved from the cultural misunderstandings of the Spanish. Others believe that it was based on real cities, perhaps lost in the jungle, or destroyed by natural disasters. But regardless of the theories, the truth is that El Dorado continues to elude us, existing only as a legend. Historians still argue over whether the myth of El Dorado was a simple mistake, or whether it reflected a deeper truth about human nature. Was it a story that emerged from cultural misinterpretations, or was it a real place that simply vanished with time? The mystery remains, and perhaps that is the beauty of the legend. El Dorado will forever be a symbol of the unattainable, the dream that can never truly be realized, but always remains just out of reach. The silence of the jungle is almost suffocating. The only sound is the rustle of leaves as an unseen creature moves through the undergrowth. You stand at the edge of a clearing, sweat trickling down your face, and feel an overwhelming sense of both awe and dread. You've come so far, but as you stand there looking into the dense green void, you can't help but wonder, what if this search is all in vain? What if El Dorado is just another piece of human fantasy built on hopes and dreams that can never be fulfilled? As the 19th century drew near, the myth of El Dorado began to take on a new dimension. The age of exploration was coming to an end, and European powers were shifting their focus toward colonization and trade. The once celebrated expeditions to find the Golden City were now relegated to history books, their stories whispered in the halls of academics and adventurers. Yet, even as the physical pursuit of El Dorado came to a close, the myth continued to evolve and shape the world in ways that no one could have predicted. During this period, there was a growing sense of skepticism surrounding the search for El Dorado. More and more people began to ask, was it worth all the time, resources, and lives lost to this endless chase? Historians still debate the true cost of the El Dorado expeditions. For many, the loss of life and the suffering caused by the harsh conditions of the jungle seemed like a tragedy, all for a myth that may never have existed. The reality of the search for El Dorado was far grimmer than the dream. In fact, some scholars believe that the pursuit of El Dorado may have been a catalyst for deeper colonial ambitions. The search didn't just represent the desire for gold. It reflected the Europeans' thirst to conquer the unknown. The relentless drive to find El Dorado was bound up with the larger European impulse to dominate, to uncover and exploit the resources of foreign lands. The idea of El Dorado, a golden city waiting to be discovered, served as a metaphor for the colonial dreams of a continent that had yet to be fully explored. Despite the growing skepticism, there were those who still believed in the myth. Some travelers, motivated by personal ambition or a deep sense of adventure, continued to search for El Dorado well into the 1800s. Others saw the Golden City as a metaphor for an ideal world one, where mankind could transcend the limitations of reality and live in harmony with the wealth and beauty of nature. These more philosophical interpretations of the El Dorado myth were less concerned with finding a literal city of gold, and more focused on the symbolic meaning behind the search. Yet, even as the myth was being reinterpreted in new ways, the idea of El Dorado as a tangible place never truly disappeared. It was incorporated into the growing genre of adventure fiction, where treasure hunts, lost cities, and uncharted lands became the bread and butter of pulp magazines and novels. The myth of El Dorado had taken on a life of its own, no longer bound by the historical reality of the conquistadors' quest, but woven into the fabric of storytelling, where it would continue to captivate generations of readers and viewers. Historians still argue about whether the myth of El Dorado was ever truly about gold. Was it simply the dream of riches that drove the explorers, or was it something more? Some believe that the pursuit of El Dorado was as much about spiritual and philosophical fulfillment as it was about material wealth. Others argue that the search for gold was simply a reflection of the human condition, a never-ending quest for something more, something greater, something impossible. In the end, the myth of El Dorado is both a reflection of the age of exploration and a timeless symbol of human desire. The city of gold, as elusive as it may be, represents the pursuit of dreams that seem just out of reach no matter how much we strive to attain them. It reminds us that the journey itself can be as valuable as the destination, and that our deepest ambitions can often lead us to unexpected and sometimes unattainable places. You're exhausted now. Every muscle aches. Your eyes are heavy and the jungle seems endless. You've seen others fall by the wayside, hungry, feverish, defeated. But you keep moving forward, driven by something you can't quite explain. Is it the thought of finding El Dorado? Or is it the dream itself that keeps you going? Perhaps in a way, the myth of El Dorado has become more important than the reality of the city. It has become a symbol, a guiding light for all who dare to dream of impossible riches. By the mid-1800s, the search for El Dorado had become a distant memory for most, but not for everyone. The myth lived on, not just in the jungles of South America, but in the hearts of those who believed that hidden treasures waited to be found. Though the expeditions had dwindled, the idea of a city of gold continued to inspire adventurers, treasure hunters, and storytellers alike. El Dorado had transformed into something more than just a physical place. It was a beacon of hope, a dream that anyone could chase, and one that promised unimaginable wealth and glory. But as history unfolded, it became clear that El Dorado was never going to be found, not in the way people had imagined it. The jungle swallowed up every last clue, and the maps became more and more obscured with each passing year. El Dorado was becoming a symbol of everything unattainable, a reminder that some things, no matter how much we desire them, will always be out of reach. This transformation of El Dorado from a literal city into a metaphor for the human condition was further solidified in the 20th century. Writers, filmmakers, and historians began to reinterpret the myth in ways that resonated with modern sensibilities. El Dorado became something more than just a gold rush. It became the ultimate symbol of human ambition, and the lengths we're willing to go to in order to achieve the unattainable. Historians still argue about the ultimate significance of the El Dorado myth. Is it a story of greed, or is it a story of hope? The legendary city represents both. It is the dream of riches and power. But it is also the eternal chase for something greater, something that will fulfill all our desires. Perhaps, as some historians suggest, the myth reflects our innate desire to believe in the possibility of a better future, even when that future seems impossible to attain. For many, the pursuit of El Dorado was a pursuit of meaning, a journey that could in its own way give their lives purpose. The explorers who set out on these treacherous journeys did so not only for wealth, but for the glory of being the one to find what no one else could. Their names would go down in history forever, etched in the pages of exploration. But in the end, many of them were never heard from again, their dreams as unreachable as the city itself. Even in modern times, El Dorado continues to captivate our imaginations. It has become a part of popular culture, appearing in books, movies, and even video games. The Golden City is no longer just a physical place to be discovered. It is a symbol of adventure and the human spirit. People still search for the dream, whether it's the literal gold or the metaphorical prize, the idea that something greater than ourselves is out there just waiting to be found. Historians debate whether this myth serves as a warning or a lesson. On one hand, it could be seen as a cautionary tale, a story about the dangers of blind ambition, about the price we pay for chasing something that may never exist. On the other hand, it may also be a reminder of the power of hope, of the importance of daring to dream, even when those dreams are seemingly impossible. El Dorado represents the best and worst of human nature. The relentless drive to succeed, to find the impossible, and to believe that there is always something greater out there, just beyond the horizon. You sit in the shade of a large tree, your body aching the weight of countless failures hanging in the air around you. The jungle hums with life, but it feels as though it's mocking you. You've been searching for so long, pushing yourself to the brink of exhaustion. Yet, despite everything, you can't help but wonder if the pursuit itself was the real treasure all along. You've learned so much in this journey about endurance, ambition, and the human capacity to chase the impossible. But is it possible that the search for El Dorado, and not the city itself, was the true goal all along? By the time the 20th century arrived, the legend of El Dorado had transcended its original form. The physical quest for the city was long over, but the myth had entered a new phase, a cultural symbol, a story that would continue to inspire and captivate people across generations. El Dorado was no longer just a geographical pursuit. It had become a metaphor for everything we chase in life, everything we dream of, and everything we believe might be just beyond our grasp. The myth had evolved into something far greater than a simple treasure hunt. It had become the symbol of human aspiration. It's easy to see why El Dorado endured in popular culture for so long. From the very beginning, the city was tied to the idea of an unattainable ideal. Whether it was gold, power, or glory, the search for El Dorado reflected the universal desire to achieve something extraordinary. And this desire is something that transcends time and place. People have always sought after greatness, whether through wealth, fame, or knowledge, and the legend of El Dorado embodies that pursuit. In fact, some historians argue that the myth of El Dorado can't be understood simply through the lens of the past. Instead, it speaks to something deeper in human nature, a desire to push boundaries, to explore the unknown, to find something that will give our lives meaning. El Dorado represents the dream that drives us to go further, to reach higher, to strive for something greater, even when we know that the destination may be impossible to reach. One of the reasons El Dorado continues to captivate us is because it embodies the tension between the known and the unknown. We know that the city doesn't exist in the way the explorers believed, but we still continue to search. Whether it's through the literal pursuit of treasure or the figurative search for success, wealth, or happiness, El Dorado lives on as a reflection of our own desires. Even today, we continue to chase the dream, to seek the unattainable, because the pursuit itself is what defines us. Historians continue to argue about the origins of the myth and its real significance. Was El Dorado simply a figment of the European imagination, born out of cultural misunderstandings and exaggerated tales? Or was it based on real events, a story twisted by the hands of time? Some scholars argue that the search for El Dorado was less about gold and more about the human drive to conquer and discover. The explorers, after all, were driven by the same instincts that led to the colonization of the Americas: the need to claim new lands, to prove their worth, and to achieve glory. Regardless of its origins, the myth of El Dorado continues to captivate us because it represents the human spirit in its purest form. A quest for something greater, an impossible dream that pushes us beyond the limits of what we can achieve. The city may never have existed, but the legend lives on, providing a metaphor for the dreams we chase every day, no matter how unattainable they may seem. The real question, however, might not be whether El Dorado was ever a physical place, but what the search for it teaches us. Is the pursuit of greatness worth it, even if the end goal is unattainable? Is there something to be learned from the explorers who risked their lives in search of a city made of gold? Historians debate these questions, but the answer might be simple. The pursuit itself is what shapes us. The jungle continues to press in thick and unyielding as you stand at the edge of a precipice. You can see the vast expanse of trees stretching out before you, an endless ocean of green. It feels like the world itself is both vast and tiny, a paradox that weighs heavily on your shoulders. You've come so far through so much hardship, and yet there's no golden city, no treasure waiting for you. But still, the myth of El Dorado lingers in your mind, flickering like a distant flame. The city may not exist, but the dream, the quest, the pursuit, those things are as real as ever. By the early 20th century, the search for El Dorado had become less about gold and more about the legacy of the explorers who had embarked on the journey. The once popular expeditions had mostly fizzled out, with only a few adventurers still following the myth into the depths of the Amazon. Yet the idea of El Dorado continued to capture the imagination of people all over the world. The dream of finding the lost city had been so deeply woven into the fabric of exploration and adventure that even after the physical quest ended, the legend remained alive in the stories people told. El Dorado in the modern world became synonymous with the pursuit of impossible goals. It represented the ultimate human ambition to find something so extraordinary that it could change your life forever. The idea of uncovering hidden treasures, whether literal or metaphorical, still captured the collective imagination, even as the real world increasingly dismissed such pursuits as fantastical and naive. But the myth's lasting power lies not in its factual accuracy, but in its embodiment of the human condition. El Dorado represents something much deeper than just a city. It symbolizes the dreams and aspirations that drive us, even when we know they may never come true. The search for El Dorado has always been about the journey, the determination, the hope, and the belief that there's something greater out there waiting to be discovered. In a way, the myth is less about finding a physical treasure, and more about the idea that life itself is a treasure hunt. The thrill of the chase is just as meaningful, if not more so, than the destination. El Dorado's presence in modern pop culture speaks to this broader meaning. The legend continues to appear in literature, film, and art, often portrayed as the embodiment of the impossible quest. Movies and books about hidden treasures, lost civilizations, and adventure in exotic lands owe a great deal to the myth of El Dorado. Even video games have adopted the story, turning it into a backdrop for heroic quests and epic adventures. In these modern retellings, El Dorado is no longer just a city of gold. It is an ideal, an aspiration, a place that embodies the search for something greater than ourselves. Historians often argue about whether the myth of El Dorado had any basis in reality at all. Was there ever a city made of gold, or was it simply a tale spun from the misinterpretations of indigenous rituals and European fantasies? Some believe that the myth grew out of stories about real golden artifacts and wealthy empires in the Americas, while others think it was entirely the product of colonial greed and imagination. The truth may never be fully understood, and perhaps it doesn't need to be. What matters is how the legend of El Dorado has shaped our perception of the world and of ourselves. The idea of El Dorado continues to fuel the human desire for discovery. It reminds us that the act of searching is often more powerful than the actual discovery itself. And, in that sense, the legend is not a cautionary tale about the dangers of obsession, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It encourages us to keep searching for the impossible, to keep striving for something greater, even if we never reach it. After all, perhaps the most valuable treasure of all is the hope that our dreams can lead us to places we never imagined. Historians and adventurers alike continue to argue about the real meaning of El Dorado. Some say it's the perfect example of how myths shape our reality. Others claim that it's a warning about the dangers of unchecked ambition. Either way, El Dorado remains a part of our collective consciousness, a symbol of the boundless human drive to seek to find and to dream. You stand in the heart of the jungle, the weight of your journey pressing down on you, as if the earth itself is reminding you of how far you've come and how far you still have to go. The path behind you is littered with the remnants of those who tried and failed, but something keeps you going. Perhaps it's the idea that El Dorado is waiting just ahead, or perhaps it's the understanding that the journey itself, with all its hardships, has brought you to a place you never could have imagined. The city of gold may still be out of reach, but the lesson, the experience, has become your treasure. As the world entered the 21st century, the myth of El Dorado had become less about gold and more about the values that had shaped the quest, ambition, hope, and the pursuit of greatness. The dream of finding the city had morphed into something more symbolic, a metaphor for human desire and perseverance. In the modern world, where material wealth often dominates our ambitions, the story of El Dorado serves as a reminder that some of the most valuable treasures are intangible things, like knowledge discovery and personal growth. The myth's evolution mirrored changes in society itself. As we moved into a new era, El Dorado ceased to be just a physical place. It became the embodiment of the pursuit of dreams, dreams that were no longer limited to treasure hunting, but extended to all aspects of life. From scientists searching for cures to explorers seeking the unknown corners of space, El Dorado became the perfect symbol for anyone striving to reach the unreachable. It became about more than just finding wealth. It became about the search for meaning, and the understanding that the journey itself, the lessons learned, and the people met along the way were just as valuable as the destination. Historians still debate the true origin of the El Dorado myth. Was it based on real stories like the gold-filled cities of the Muisca people, or was it simply an invention of the European imagination? Some modern historians suggest that the myth might have been born out of a combination of these elements, a distorted blending of indigenous beliefs, cultural misunderstandings, and the insatiable European hunger for gold. The reality of the myth, if it existed at all, is probably far more complex than any single explanation could capture. But what matters is that El Dorado became a symbol of something much larger than just a city. It became the ultimate goal in a quest that represented human nature itself. Today, the legacy of El Dorado can be seen in every corner of the world. We chase after gold, sure, but we also chase after ideas, knowledge, and achievements that seem beyond our reach. And just as the explorers of old found themselves lost in the jungles of South America, we too often find ourselves caught in the endless pursuit of something more. Something we can't quite define but feel must be out there somewhere. And like the explorers, we are sometimes left with little more than the knowledge that the pursuit itself, the striving for greatness, holds its own form of reward. El Dorado, whether it was ever real or not, has become a reflection of the human spirit, a spirit that refuses to give up, that continues to reach for the stars, even when the stars are far beyond our grasp. Some might call this blind ambition, but others see it as the very essence of what it means to be human, the ability to hope to dream and to chase those dreams with everything we have. The myth of El Dorado has inspired countless generations, and its lessons continue to resonate. As much as we might want to uncover the lost city of gold, perhaps what El Dorado really teaches us is that the true treasure lies not in what we find, but in the pursuit itself. The real gold, after all, isn't a thing. It's the drive, the courage, and the perseverance to keep searching no matter what. Historians still wonder what drove those early explorers. Was it greed or something deeper? Some say that the quest for El Dorado was about more than material wealth. It was about the desire to prove oneself, to achieve something that would echo through the ages. Perhaps that's the true legacy of El Dorado, not the gold, but the idea that even in failure there is meaning. Even in the pursuit of something unattainable, there is a journey worth taking. As you trudge deeper into the jungle, the landscape begins to shift. The trees grow taller, their canopies thick with leaves that block out the sun. The air grows even more stifling, and every step seems to take you further from the world you once knew. But something has changed within you. The idea of El Dorado, of gold, of treasure, has taken a back seat to something else. The journey itself has become your pursuit. The challenges, the obstacles, the strange and wonderful things you've seen along the way. all of that has turned into the real treasure. It's no longer about finding a golden city, but about discovering something more profound about yourself. As the legend of El Dorado continued to evolve through the centuries, it transitioned from a physical pursuit to a more abstract one. In the 20th century, as humanity faced new challenges, wars, revolutions, and rapid technological advancements, the myth of El Dorado began to take on new significance. It was no longer just a story about explorers venturing into the wilderness. It was about the universal human desire for something more, a deeper meaning, a higher purpose. The idea of El Dorado as a city of gold became synonymous with the idea of utopia of a perfect society, just beyond the horizon, a dream of what the world could be if only we could find it. The shift in how we perceive El Dorado is evident in the way it has been incorporated into modern narratives. It appears in literature, in film, and in various media as a symbol of ultimate achievement, a place where all of life's desires are fulfilled. But as these stories evolved, they also began to reflect the limitations of such desires. In films and novels, the quest for El Dorado often ends in disappointment, or in a realization that the gold was never the real treasure. Instead, it is the character's growth and the lessons they learn along the way that become the true reward. Historians and scholars now tend to view El Dorado not as a real place, but as an enduring symbol of human ambition. It represents the eternal search for something greater, something that transcends the material world. In a sense, El Dorado is a mirror to our own desires. It speaks to the part of us that always seeks more, that dreams of the impossible, and that believes in the possibility of finding paradise. Whether we are chasing wealth, fame, knowledge, or love the essence of the El Dorado myth, remains relevant in every corner of our lives. In today's world, the search for El Dorado is often portrayed as a cautionary tale. In stories, those who pursue the city of gold often end up losing more than they gain. They lose their lives, their sanity, their moral compass, all for a dream that can never be realized. But even in these modern interpretations, there is a certain beauty to the pursuit. It is not the finding of the treasure that matters, but the act of seeking the drive to push forward, despite the odds, to believe that something better is out there waiting for us. The modern search for El Dorado has also found its way into the realm of entrepreneurship exploration and scientific discovery. Many people today, much like the explorers of centuries past, chase after dreams that seem impossible. Whether they're trying to discover a cure for disease, build a better future, or explore the furthest reaches of space, they're all, in a way, chasing their own version of El Dorado. In this sense, the myth of El Dorado has evolved into a symbol of human perseverance. The idea that no matter how many times we fail, the pursuit itself can be worth everything. Historians continue to argue over whether the search for El Dorado ever truly made sense, whether it was worth the lives lost and the time spent. But perhaps the real lesson lies not in the search for a golden city, but in the journey itself. The fact that humans are wired to chase after something, even when that something might not exist. This drive is what propels us forward, what makes us reach for the stars, and what helps us grow even when the destination is far beyond our grasp. In the end, El Dorado is not a city, but a dream. It is a reminder that the human spirit will always yearn for more, that we will continue to seek and to strive even when we know the goal may forever remain out of reach. It is this eternal search, the pursuit of the impossible, that defines us. And it is this pursuit that makes us who we are. As you sit down by the edge of a stream, the cool water trickling over rocks, you reflect on the path you've taken. the dense jungle, the heat, the fatigue, they all seem to have faded into the background as you think about what really matters. The Golden City, the treasure you once sought with such fervor, now seems like a distant memory. What remains is the journey, the people you've met, the lessons you've learned, the strength you never knew you had. It's as though the search for El Dorado was never really about the city at all, but about what it revealed in you, the explorer. By the 20th century, the myth of El Dorado had firmly settled into the world of legend and symbol. While early expeditions had been characterized by relentless pursuit and death, later interpretations began to focus on the spiritual and psychological aspects of the search. El Dorado was no longer just a physical city waiting to be uncovered. It became an idea that spoke to the depths of human yearning. It represented not just material wealth, but the pursuit of meaning, the desire to uncover truth, and the quest to find a place of ultimate peace and fulfillment. In the modern world, the dream of El Dorado can be seen in countless ways. People chase wealth, success, and recognition in every field: business, technology, art, driven by the same forces that fueled the early explorers. But today, the City of Gold is less of a literal goal and more a metaphor for the ideals we aspire to. It's the promise of a better future, the hope that we can find something that will give our lives meaning, and the belief that no matter how many times we fail, the journey itself is worth it. El Dorado, as a cultural artifact, has persisted throughout the centuries because it taps into something universal. It's a myth that transcends generations, that continues to resonate with anyone who has ever dared to dream of something greater. The explorers of the 16th and 17th centuries may have died in their pursuit, but their quest lives on in the collective imagination. The pursuit of El Dorado became the pursuit of the human spirit, constantly reaching, constantly striving, never satisfied, but always moving forward. Historians still debate the origins of El Dorado. Was it based on real places? Did it arise from misinterpretations of native rituals, or was it a creation of European fantasy designed to explain the unexplainable? The answer perhaps isn't as important as the question itself. The City of Gold may never have existed, but the myth speaks to something profound about human nature: the desire for discovery, the longing for something beyond the horizon, the endless quest to make our mark on the world. The myth of El Dorado has evolved as myths often do, taking on new forms and new meanings. It has been reinterpreted in countless ways in literature, films, and art. El Dorado is a symbol of adventure, of greed, of hope, and of loss. It is a reminder that the pursuit of dreams often comes with sacrifice, but that the journey itself can reveal more than the treasure at the end. The myth encourages us to keep searching even when we know the answer may never come. In a way, El Dorado has become less about a physical place and more about a mindset. It is the belief that no matter how unreachable our goals seem, the pursuit of them is what gives life purpose. Whether in the jungles of South America or the fast-paced cities of the modern world, the quest for El Dorado continues to inspire us to reach for the stars, even when the stars seem impossibly far away. It reminds us that, in the end, it's not the destination that defines us, but the courage to pursue the unknown. As the jungle finally gives way to a clearing, the weight of your journey begins to settle in. You look back at the trail you've left behind, a winding path full of obstacles, struggles, and moments of doubt. And yet here you are, still standing, still dreaming. The Golden City may have remained elusive, but the experience of the journey, the discovery of your own resilience, has become your treasure. El Dorado, once a city of gold, now represents something deeper, an enduring pursuit of meaning, of growth, and of the knowledge that sometimes the answers we seek are found not in the destination, but in the way we get there. In the years that followed the great expeditions to find El Dorado, the myth began to take on an increasingly philosophical tone. The idea of a golden city was still present, but it became less about material wealth and more about spiritual fulfillment. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, the story of El Dorado was reimagined by writers, philosophers, and historians alike, who saw it as a reflection of humanity's endless quest for meaning. The pursuit of El Dorado became a metaphor for the search for self-discovery, enlightenment, and personal growth. In the modern age, El Dorado is no longer tied exclusively to the jungles of South America or to the conquest of gold. It has taken on new forms. It is the dream of a perfect life, the aspiration to reach one's fullest potential, and the desire to create a better future. In this sense, the myth of El Dorado still drives us today, pushing us towards success, fulfillment, and deeper understanding. But, like the explorers of old, we find that the more we chase it, the more elusive it becomes. The dream itself has shifted. It's no longer about one specific goal, but about the endless journey toward becoming the best version of ourselves. Historians still debate the true origins of the El Dorado myth. Some believe it was born out of native rituals and the exaggerated stories of Spanish conquistadors. Others see it as a creation of European imagination, a way of explaining the New World's riches and the strange, untamed landscapes they encountered. But what is clear is that El Dorado has transcended its original context. It is no longer merely a tale of conquest and treasure. It is now a universal symbol of human aspiration, a reminder that the pursuit of something greater than ourselves will always be part of the human experience. In the world of modern storytelling, El Dorado appears in countless forms: movies, books, video games, and art, all reinterpreting the idea of the Golden City. Sometimes it's a literal city of gold, hidden away in a forgotten corner of the world. Other times, it's an abstract concept, a goal that can never quite be reached. In each version, however, the myth remains the same. The pursuit of El Dorado is both a quest for something tangible and a journey of self-discovery. It's the search for answers, the striving to understand our place in the world, and the belief that there's something just beyond our reach that could change everything. As we move further into the future, the myth of El Dorado continues to evolve. The Golden City may have never been found, but the desire to chase after it has never faded. Today, El Dorado exists not just in the jungles of South America, but in the hearts and minds of people around the world. It represents our collective dreams and our unyielding desire to achieve the impossible. It is the goal that lies just beyond the horizon, always just out of reach, yet always worth pursuing. And perhaps that's the ultimate lesson of the El Dorado myth, that the quest for something greater, no matter how elusive, is what gives our lives meaning. The pursuit of El Dorado, whether literal or metaphorical, reminds us that it's not the destination that defines us, but the courage, resilience, and hope that keep us moving forward. The myth lives on because it speaks to something deeply human, the desire to believe that there is something out there worth finding, even if we never find it. It is the search itself that shapes us, and it is this eternal quest that defines the human spirit. As you sit in the stillness, a slight breeze brushing against your face, the reality of your journey begins to sink in. The Golden City, the one that has been your guiding light throughout this entire expedition, may never have existed in the way you imagined. Yet the value of the pursuit, the lessons learned, and the experiences gained along the way have become your true treasure. El Dorado was never just a city. It was a reflection of your own ambition, your dreams, and your relentless pursuit of something greater. By the mid-20th century, the myth of El Dorado had taken on an even more profound significance. It had become a symbol not just of exploration and treasure hunting, but of the human need to reach beyond what is known to chase after ideals that seem impossible to attain. As humanity faced new challenges, wars, social upheaval, and the dawn of the space age, the myth of El Dorado found new relevance. It represented the aspiration to achieve the unattainable, to push the boundaries of what was possible, and to dare to dream of a better future even when the odds were against us. The dream of El Dorado had transcended its origins. It was no longer just about a city of gold hidden deep in the jungle. It had become a universal symbol of hope and perseverance. It had evolved into a metaphor for the pursuit of knowledge, enlightenment, and progress. The Golden City was no longer a physical place to be discovered, but a metaphor for the highest aspirations of humanity. The search for El Dorado in this sense is more relevant than ever. It mirrors the struggles and triumphs of those who strive to make the world a better place. Whether it's through scientific discovery, social justice, or personal growth, the pursuit of something greater continues to drive individuals and societies alike. And, just as the explorers of old faced adversity in their quest, so too do we face challenges in our own pursuits. But the dream of El Dorado, the belief that something extraordinary lies just beyond our reach, keeps us going. In the modern world, El Dorado has become a part of the cultural fabric, appearing in literature, film, and art as a symbol of the endless human quest for more. It speaks to the desire for greatness and fulfillment, and the belief that something better is always possible. In a way, the legend has come to represent not just an ideal, but a way of life, one that is characterized by hope, ambition, and the willingness to chase after dreams no matter how distant or difficult they may seem. Some historians argue that the myth of El Dorado is an idealization of human desire itself. It's the perfect representation of our tendency to seek out things that are out of reach, to believe that the next discovery, the next achievement will bring us the happiness or fulfillment we crave. Whether or not the Golden City ever existed, the story of El Dorado captures the essence of the human condition, the unquenchable thirst for more, the constant drive to improve, to understand, to grow. As we continue to explore new frontiers from the depths of the oceans to the vastness of space, the spirit of El Dorado lives on. It reminds us that the journey, the pursuit of knowledge, and the courage to face the unknown are just as important as the goal itself. The legend of El Dorado is no longer just about gold or wealth. It's about the belief that by chasing after our dreams, we make the world a better place. It's about knowing that even when the destination is elusive, the journey has value. The myth of El Dorado remains a beacon for all who dare to dream. It is a reminder that the greatest treasures aren't always found in the things we seek, but in the discoveries we make about ourselves along the way. It encourages us to continue reaching, to keep searching, and to believe that the impossible is worth pursuing, even when the path ahead is uncertain. The jungle, thick with vines, and the murmur of life feels almost surreal now. The path you've traveled seems less like a route through the wilderness, and more like a metaphor for your journey through life itself. Every turn, every challenge, every moment of doubt has shaped you. The legend of El Dorado, once a story of gold and treasure, has transformed into a more personal myth, a reflection of your own pursuit of meaning, knowledge, and growth. you realize that the Golden City wasn't just an external place to be discovered. It was an internal one, a place within yourself where your greatest hopes, dreams, and ambitions reside. In the 21st century, as humanity continues to advance, the myth of El Dorado has evolved yet again. While the search for a literal city of gold has long since ended, the ideas it represents ambition, exploration. The desire to uncover hidden truths remain as relevant as ever. We are still in pursuit of our own version of El Dorado, whether we're searching for scientific breakthroughs, personal fulfillment, or a better world for future generations. The Golden City, like the dream itself, is ever present, but always just beyond reach. In many ways, the story of El Dorado is the story of human ambition. It reflects our tendency to look toward the future with hope, believing that the next discovery, the next step forward, will bring us closer to something greater. And yet, like the explorers who ventured into the jungle, we often find that the pursuit is just as important, if not more important, than the destination. Each failure, each setback along the way becomes a part of the journey. It's a reminder that growth comes from struggle, and that the search for meaning is as valuable as the treasure we hope to find. The myth of El Dorado has had a profound impact on our collective imagination. It has been reinterpreted in literature, art, and cinema as a symbol of everything we hope to achieve. Whether in stories about treasure hunters, explorers, or heroes on impossible quests, El Dorado represents that which we long for, whether it's love, success, knowledge, or personal enlightenment. It stands as a beacon of what could be a perfect vision of our dreams and aspirations. But perhaps the most enduring lesson of the El Dorado myth is that the pursuit of greatness is universal. It transcends time, culture, and geography. Whether you're seeking fame, wealth, or a better understanding of the world, the pursuit itself mirrors the efforts of those who chased El Dorado. We're all searching for something that feels just beyond our reach, something that promises to change our lives and the world around us. And it's this pursuit that shapes us, that gives our lives purpose and meaning. As modern adventurers, we may no longer seek a literal city of gold hidden in the jungles of South America. But we are still in many ways searching for our own version of El Dorado. It might be the dream of success, the hope for a better future, or the desire for personal fulfillment. Whatever form it takes, El Dorado remains an enduring symbol of human ambition, reminding us that the chase, the journey, is where the true treasure lies. Historians still debate the origins and significance of the El Dorado myth, and whether it was ever rooted in fact or entirely based on European fantasy. Some believe it was a product of cultural misunderstandings, while others argue that it was based on a real city or civilization that has since been lost to time. But regardless of its origins, the legend continues to inspire us today. It reminds us that the quest for something greater, something beyond our current understanding, is what drives humanity forward. Whether it's the search for gold or the pursuit of wisdom, El Dorado represents the human spirit in its purest form, the desire to reach beyond what we know to chase something that will make our lives and our world better. As the journey continues, you find yourself standing on the edge of a great river, its waters flowing steadily forward. The current is strong, and the path ahead is unclear, but there's something about the way the water moves effortlessly without hesitation that speaks to you. It's as if the river knows that the journey is as important as the destination, that every step taken in pursuit of something greater matters just as much as the end goal. You take a deep breath and step forward, ready to face whatever lies ahead, knowing that just like the river, You are part of something much larger than yourself. In the world today, the myth of El Dorado still resonates with people from all walks of life. While the explorers of the past may have sought a literal city of gold, we now seek different forms of wealth knowledge, personal growth, scientific breakthroughs, and social progress. The modern pursuit of El Dorado reflects the values of the 21st century values that prioritize the journey over the destination, the process of discovery over the end result. The quest for El Dorado has transformed from a literal search for treasure into a universal symbol for the quest for purpose, truth, and self-realization. The modern world is filled with metaphorical El Dorados. For some, it's the dream of finding a cure for a disease or the hope of discovering new frontiers in space. For others, it's the pursuit of personal success, happiness, or fulfillment. But in each case, the story is the same. We are all, in one way or another, chasing something that feels just beyond our reach, whether it's the quest for material wealth, personal growth, or a better world for future generations. El Dorado serves as a reminder that the pursuit itself is what truly matters. El Dorado has become a symbol of the human spirit's resilience, of our ability to dream and to chase after impossible goals. It represents the way we continually push forward, even when the odds are stacked against us. The myth serves as a metaphor for the obstacles and challenges that we face in life. But just as the explorers of the past faced untold dangers in their pursuit of the Golden City, so too do we encounter struggles on our own journeys. And it's these struggles, these moments of failure and perseverance, that define us. The search for El Dorado, in the end, is about much more than finding treasure. It's about the person we become along the way. As we venture into the future, the spirit of El Dorado continues to inspire us. The Golden City may remain elusive, but the lessons of the past, the value of hard work, persistence, and the belief in something greater still resonate deeply with us today. The myth of El Dorado is not just a relic of the past. It is a timeless symbol that will continue to guide and inspire future generations. It reminds us that the greatest treasure lies not in the gold or the riches we seek, but in the journey itself. Historians have long debated whether the El Dorado myth was based on real places or merely the product of European fantasy. Some believe it was inspired by the wealth of native civilizations, while others argue it was simply a creation of the imagination. But in the end, the truth may not matter. El Dorado, like many myths, has become more than a story. It is a reflection of the hopes, dreams, and struggles of every person who dares to chase after something greater. It is a symbol of the human desire to reach beyond what we know, to strive for something impossible, and to find meaning in the pursuit itself. Whether you're an explorer chasing the unknown, an entrepreneur reaching for success, or a dreamer hoping for a better world, El Dorado remains a powerful symbol. It reminds us that the search for meaning is just as important as finding it, and that the journey we undertake is often where we discover our true selves. In the end, the search for El Dorado may be the search for all of us for something greater, something eternal, something worth pursuing. The jungle has faded into memory now, and you stand at the edge of a vast expanse, the horizon stretching endlessly before you. The search for El Dorado, the golden city that once captivated your every thought, seems like a lifetime ago. But in your heart, the pursuit of that city has become a part of you, just as the pursuit of anything greater than ourselves becomes a part of those who dare to dream. You may not have found the Golden City, but in a way you've discovered something far more valuable. The journey, the lessons, the moments of doubt and triumph They've shaped you in ways that words can't fully capture. As the 21st century unfolds, the myth of El Dorado has taken on even more complex meanings. In a world increasingly driven by technological advancements, globalization, and rapid change, the pursuit of El Dorado remains deeply relevant. Today, the City of Gold represents the dreams we all chase, whether it's the hope of scientific innovation, social progress, environmental sustainability, or a deeper sense of personal fulfillment. The myth serves as a powerful reminder that the search for something greater, the willingness to push forward in the face of adversity, is what drives us to improve, to evolve, and to build a better future. The notion of El Dorado is no longer confined to the jungles of South America or the dreams of long-dead conquistadors. It lives on in the pursuit of dreams worldwide, fueling ambition in every corner of the globe. Whether it's the race to cure disease, the exploration of new frontiers in space, or the quest to end poverty, El Dorado is alive in every person who dares to strive for something impossible. And much like the explorers of old, the world's dreamers are often faced with setbacks, failures, and obstacles that seem insurmountable. Yet the desire to press on to chase something just out of reach continues to shape the human experience. One of the most enduring lessons of the El Dorado myth is that the search for something, whether it's knowledge, wealth, love, or a better world, requires a willingness to fail to take risks and to confront the unknown. The explorers who set out in search of the Golden City were often motivated by the promise of wealth, but it was the courage to venture into the unknown that defined them. Today, the spirit of El Dorado lives on in those who push the boundaries of possibility. Whether it's an entrepreneur seeking to revolutionize an industry or a scientist working tirelessly to discover new cures, the search for El Dorado remains a metaphor for anyone who dares to challenge the limits of what is possible. In popular culture, El Dorado continues to be reimagined in new ways, reflecting both its enduring appeal and its evolution as a symbol. The City of Gold may be elusive, but the quest for it remains universal, transcending time and space. It has inspired countless stories, books, films, and even video games about adventurers and explorers who are driven by the hope of discovering something extraordinary. In these modern retellings, El Dorado is often a symbol of the ideal, the dream, or the impossible goal that defines the human spirit. Even as the search for the physical city of El Dorado has long since ended, the myth lives on as a reflection of our eternal longing for something greater. It's a reminder that we are all in pursuit of something, whether it's material wealth, intellectual enlightenment, or personal growth. The pursuit itself is what shapes us and drives us forward. El Dorado is no longer just a golden city buried in the jungle waiting to be discovered. It is a symbol of hope, ambition, and the human desire to reach beyond the confines of our current reality. And, as long as there are dreams to chase, there will always be an El Dorado just beyond the horizon, waiting for someone brave enough to seek it. You pause for a moment, standing at the edge of the world, a quiet stillness washing over you. The dream of El Dorado, the golden city that once seemed to beckon from the mist of the jungle, has become something different now. It's no longer a city to be found, but a symbol of something deeper, the relentless human spirit that seeks to uncover the unknown, to chase dreams and aspirations that seem unreachable. El Dorado represents the quest itself, the adventure, the courage to strive for more, even when the goal remains elusive. As we move through the 21st century, the myth of El Dorado continues to resonate with us, evolving into a metaphor for the challenges we face in today's world. The dream of uncovering hidden treasures, discovering new frontiers and achieving greatness, remains as powerful as ever. But now it is not a literal city of gold we seek, but a better world. A world of understanding, progress, and equality. The search for El Dorado has evolved from a pursuit of material wealth to a more profound quest for knowledge, peace, and human connection. In a time when global challenges loom large climate change, social inequality, and political strife, the myth of El Dorado can serve as a reminder of what drives us forward. The explorers of the past may have sought gold and riches, but today the world is filled with explorers who are working toward something even more valuable: solutions to the problems that threaten the future of humanity. Like those who ventured into the jungles of South America, today's dreamers and innovators face an uncertain path filled with obstacles and setbacks. Yet, it is the pursuit of these ideals, the quest for a brighter future, that shapes the journey. El Dorado, in its modern incarnation, also speaks to the personal quests we embark on in our own lives. Whether we're chasing career success, seeking personal fulfillment, or striving to make a difference in the world, we are all, in a sense, chasing our own version of El Dorado. The Golden City may remain elusive, but the lessons learned, the resilience built, and the connections forged along the way are the true treasures we uncover. The myth teaches us that it is not the final destination that defines us, but the pursuit itself. The determination to keep moving forward, to believe that something greater is just over the horizon. In the world of technology and innovation, the spirit of El Dorado lives on. The search for new discoveries, new technologies, and new ways of improving life for humanity has replaced the search for gold. Scientists, engineers, and thinkers around the globe are working tirelessly to make breakthroughs that will change the world. Much like the conquistadors of old, they are driven by the hope that their discoveries will be transformative, that they will unlock something that will better the human condition. The modern-day El Dorado is no longer a physical place, but a vision of a better, more sustainable future. And yet, just as with the early explorers, today's dreamers often face obstacles that seem insurmountable. They encounter failures, false starts, and setbacks along the way. But, like the explorers who refused to turn back in the face of adversity, today's visionaries press on, driven by the belief that the impossible can become possible. The quest for El Dorado in this sense has become more than just a search for riches. It is the search for meaning, the quest to leave a legacy, and the hope to contribute to something larger than ourselves. In literature, film, and art, El Dorado continues to be reinterpreted in various forms. The city of gold may no longer be the focus, but the idea of an unreachable goal. A destination that promises fulfillment and transformation is a central theme in many of today's most popular narratives. Whether in tales of adventure or stories of personal growth, El Dorado remains a symbol of the ideal, the dream that motivates us to keep striving, even when we know that the journey may never lead us exactly where we expect. At its core, El Dorado represents the human need to dream, to reach for something beyond what we know, and to keep moving forward even when the path ahead is unclear. It serves as a reminder that the pursuit of a better future, no matter how elusive it may seem, is a journey worth taking. And, as long as there are people daring to dream, the myth of El Dorado will continue to inspire those who seek to make the world a better place. The winds have shifted now, and the sky above you seems endless, just like the potential that lies ahead. You stand at the precipice of everything you've known, a vast, unknown world stretching out in front of you, full of possibilities. El Dorado. The golden city you once sought so feverishly now feels like a distant echo, a reminder of the dreams that drive you forward. The treasure, it seems, was never about gold. It was always about the search itself, the courage to venture into the unknown, to ask questions, and to strive for a better future. And though the city remains unseen, the journey continues to unfold in new and unexpected ways. The 21st century is an era defined by both unprecedented opportunity and immense global challenges. The myth of El Dorado, once confined to the jungles of South America, now encapsulates the spirit of exploration and innovation that drives humanity today. In this modern world, we find ourselves on a different kind of expedition, a quest for knowledge, for social progress, and for sustainable solutions to the complex issues that define our time. Like the conquistadors who set sail in search of gold, we embark on new voyages every day, driven by the belief that the future can be brighter, that the impossible can be made possible. Today, the search for El Dorado is not just about material wealth, it's about the pursuit of collective well-being. Scientists and innovators from fields ranging from medicine to environmental science are exploring new frontiers in the hopes of creating a more sustainable and equitable world. The quest for a cure to diseases, the fight against climate change, and the work to create clean energy all represent the new face of El Dorado. It's a pursuit of something far more valuable than gold, the hope for a future where humanity thrives in harmony with the planet and with each other. In personal terms, the search for El Dorado has also evolved. People continue to chase their dreams, their own personal versions of success and fulfillment. Whether it's climbing the corporate ladder, finding peace of mind, or reaching personal growth, the Golden City is now a symbol for the ultimate goal we set for ourselves. The journey is often long filled with setbacks and obstacles, but the pursuit remains just as important as the destination. And just like the explorers of old, we press on, knowing that each step forward brings us closer to something meaningful, even if the end goal is never fully realized. In the world of technology, we see echoes of El Dorado in the drive for innovation. The digital age has brought about a revolution in how we connect, communicate, and learn. The search for knowledge and discovery, just like the pursuit of El Dorado, is now a global endeavor. Researchers, entrepreneurs, and dreamers are building the technologies of tomorrow, seeking to unlock the mysteries of space, the human brain, and the natural world. The desire to push the limits of what is possible drives the human spirit to create, to innovate, and to explore new realms that were once beyond our imagination. And yet, just as with the early explorers, there are challenges and risks. The road to discovery is never easy. There are failures, detours, and unexpected obstacles that seem to stand in the way. But these struggles are an integral part of the journey, teaching us resilience, adaptability, and patience. The pursuit of El Dorado, whether in the jungles of South America or the realm of technological innovation, is not about a singular moment of triumph. It's about the ongoing process of discovery, the willingness to keep going when the path seems uncertain, and the belief that the dream is worth the effort. The myth of El Dorado has always been a reflection of the human spirit, a spirit that refuses to accept the limitations of the present and continues to chase the dreams of a better tomorrow. Even when faced with failure, the search itself remains meaningful. It is a reflection of the human need to strive for something greater, to believe that there is always more to be discovered, and to push beyond what we know. And as we move forward into the future, that spirit of exploration, of reaching for the stars, will continue to fuel the quests of tomorrow. Whether it's the dream of a golden city, the search for a better life, or the drive to make the world a better place, the legacy of El Dorado remains alive. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the desire to reach beyond the present and into the future, to believe that there is always something worth chasing, even if we can never fully grasp it. You feel the weight of your journey behind you, but also the excitement of what lies ahead. The horizon stretches before you, infinite and full of potential. The Golden City, once a physical destination, now feels like something more abstract and ideal that drives you forward with hope and purpose. The lessons learned along the way, the experiences shared with others, and the strength you have found within yourself are the true treasures of your journey. El Dorado, once a literal city of gold, is now a symbol of everything that drives you, everything worth striving for. In the contemporary world, the myth of El Dorado continues to evolve, becoming a metaphor for the endless pursuit of innovation and progress. As we face the challenges of the modern age climate change, technological disruption, and the need for social transformation, the idea of El Dorado still serves as a guiding light. The Golden City is no longer about riches, but about the search for solutions to the world's most pressing problems. Scientists, activists, and leaders across the globe are pursuing their own versions of El Dorado, hoping to create a future that is more sustainable, equitable, and just. The quest for El Dorado has always been about more than just treasure. It's been about pushing the boundaries of what we know, venturing into the unknown, and challenging ourselves to reach for something greater. In this sense, El Dorado is still alive in every scientific discovery, every social movement, and every technological breakthrough. The dream of a better tomorrow, the belief that we can create something better than what we have now, is the modern interpretation of the myth. Whether it's finding a cure for disease, building a sustainable future, or improving the quality of life for all, the pursuit of El Dorado continues to inspire us to strive for more. The myth also lives on in the personal journeys we all undertake. Whether in our careers, our relationships, or our own personal growth, we are constantly chasing after our own versions of El Dorado. It's the dream of success, fulfillment, and peace that we seek, and the path we take to get there is filled with obstacles, setbacks, and challenges. But just like the explorers of the past, we continue to move forward, driven by the belief that the goal, no matter how distant, is worth the effort. In modern storytelling, the theme of El Dorado continues to be reimagined. Films, books, and video games often use the idea of a lost city or hidden treasure as a central narrative, exploring themes of discovery, ambition, and personal growth. These stories capture the essence of the myth that there is always something greater out there, something worth pursuing even if the journey is long and difficult. And while the city of gold may not be found in these stories, the pursuit of it remains the heart of the tale. The search for El Dorado, whether in reality or in fiction, teaches us that the act of pursuing a dream is often more important than the dream itself. It's in the challenges we face, the lessons we learn, and the growth we experience that the true treasure lies. And just as the explorers of the past found that their quest for El Dorado often led them to discover something far more valuable than gold, such as the strength of their own resilience, so too do we find that the pursuit of our own dreams shapes us into who we are meant to become. Historians and philosophers alike continue to reflect on the myth of El Dorado and what it teaches us about the human condition. Is it a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition? Or is it a celebration of the human spirit's capacity to dream and to chase after something greater than ourselves? Perhaps it's both. The legend of El Dorado endures, because it speaks to the heart of what it means to be human, to search for meaning, to strive for something better, and to keep going even when the end is unclear. As we move forward into the future, the pursuit of El Dorado remains alive in the hearts of all who dare to dream. Whether in the realm of scientific discovery, social change, or personal growth, the myth reminds us that the pursuit of the impossible is often what shapes our lives in the most meaningful ways. The Golden City may never be found, but the journey toward it, the lessons we learn, and the people we become along the way, those are the treasures that matter. You stand still, gazing at the vast horizon ahead. The path that brought you here may have been long and fraught with challenges, but each step has led to this moment, a moment of realization. El Dorado, the elusive city of gold that once drove you forward with boundless ambition, is no longer the end of the journey. Instead, the journey itself has become the destination. The treasure you sought was never about material wealth, but about the growth, the experiences, and the knowledge gained along the way. And in that knowledge, you find that the pursuit itself was the greatest reward. As humanity continues to evolve, the story of El Dorado continues to resonate, reminding us that our greatest quests are not always about finding treasure, but about the pursuit of something meaningful. The modern interpretation of El Dorado is no longer limited to the search for riches, but is now a symbol of our collective drive for progress, innovation, and transformation. In the face of climate crises, social inequalities, and technological advancements, the myth remains a beacon of hope, driving individuals and communities to continue striving for a better future, even when the path forward seems uncertain. The quest for El Dorado in its modern form is about finding solutions to the world's most pressing issues. It's about creating a world that is more sustainable, just, and equitable. Whether it's in the fields of renewable energy, disease eradication, or social reform, people continue to search for the Golden City not in the jungles of South America, but in the challenges of our time. These new treasures are found in the solutions to the problems that define the 21st century, and they require the same spirit of perseverance and hope that fueled the conquistadors of old. But just as the explorers faced obstacles in their quest, we too encounter setbacks along the way. Climate change seems to worsen, social justice movements often face resistance, and global inequality remains a stubborn problem. But the pursuit of these goals, the fight to make the world better, is the essence of the modern-day El Dorado. It may not always be easy, and the path may be long, but the belief that we can create a better future, no matter how difficult it may seem, is the fuel that drives us forward. Even in our personal lives, El Dorado lives on. The search for self-fulfillment, happiness, and peace is a journey that millions of people embark on each day. Whether it's pursuing a meaningful career, building strong relationships, or finding inner peace, we all search for our own version of the Golden City. And, much like the explorers of the past, we often face obstacles, detours, and moments of doubt. But in these moments, we find our true strength. The lessons we learn on our personal quests about perseverance, resilience, and hope are the real treasures we uncover. El Dorado, as a symbol, reminds us that the pursuit of greatness is a constant part of the human experience. The myth has always been about more than just gold. It's about the human drive to reach beyond our limits, to strive for something better, and to never stop dreaming. And as long as there are dreamers, explorers, and innovators, the spirit of El Dorado will live on, inspiring future generations to continue their own quests, even when the final destination remains out of reach. In the world of art, literature, and film, El Dorado continues to be reinterpreted and reimagined. The Golden City may no longer be the sole focus, but the idea of the unattainable goal, the pursuit of the impossible, is as compelling as ever. The search for El Dorado lives on in the stories we tell, the journeys we undertake, and the dreams we chase. Whether in fiction or in reality, El Dorado remains a symbol of the human spirit's ability to endure, to dream, and to keep searching. As we look ahead, it's clear that the pursuit of El Dorado, whether literal or metaphorical, will continue to shape our world. The Golden City may never be found, but the pursuit of something greater. The belief that we can change the world and ourselves is a treasure that will always remain within our reach. The sun sets on the horizon, casting a warm glow across the landscape, and you pause, taking in the view. The journey has been long, the path uncertain, but now you stand at the edge of it all, with the realization that what you sought was never just a city of gold. The true treasure wasn't a place. It was the experiences, the growth, and the lessons you've carried with you. The myth of El Dorado, once a tale of a golden city hidden in the jungles of South America, has transformed in your mind. It's no longer about the end, but about the path itself, and how it shapes you along the way. In the modern world, the myth of El Dorado has evolved. It's no longer about a literal city to be uncovered, but about the pursuits that drive us forward. The quests we undertake today are about discovery, innovation, and social transformation. Whether it's advancing technology, fighting for equality, or seeking out solutions to global crises, the spirit of El Dorado lives on in our collective drive to make the world better. In this way, El Dorado serves as a symbol of hope, the belief that a better future is always within reach, if only we dare to pursue it. The legacy of El Dorado is found in the dreamers, the innovators, and the changemakers who challenge the status quo. The explorers of the past may have ventured into the unknown to find gold. But today's explorers, whether they are scientists, environmentalists, or human rights advocates, are chasing something much greater. They are seeking solutions to problems that have plagued humanity for centuries, and they are willing to face the challenges head-on even when the path is unclear. The modern-day El Dorado is no longer a city of gold hidden deep in the jungle, but the dream of a better, more sustainable world. As you stand at the edge of the unknown, you understand that the pursuit of El Dorado was never just about finding gold. It was about finding meaning. It was about the human desire to make a difference, to create something that will outlast us, to leave a legacy that will inspire generations to come. Whether in the personal, societal, or global context, the spirit of El Dorado lives on in the people who strive to reach beyond the present and into a future filled with possibilities. El Dorado, in the modern sense, also represents our ongoing search for self-improvement. Personal growth is a continuous journey, just like the quest for the mythical city. Whether it's in our careers, relationships, or spiritual lives, we are all searching for ways to grow, learn, and evolve. The myth of El Dorado speaks to that universal desire to become the best version of ourselves, to reach for something greater than what we know, and to push forward even when the finish line seems distant. This interpretation of El Dorado has become embedded in the collective consciousness. In our films, books, and art, we see the metaphor of the Golden City continue to inspire stories about self-discovery and the pursuit of the impossible. The Golden City no longer represents a single physical place, but embodies the dreams and ideals we carry with us in every aspect of our lives. It is a timeless symbol of the human spirit's capacity for hope, resilience, and determination. Historians often debate the origins of the El Dorado myth, But perhaps the question itself no longer matters. What matters is that the legend continues to inspire us. It drives us to pursue our own versions of the Golden City, our own goals, our own dreams, and our own quests. Whether or not we ever achieve them, the pursuit itself is what shapes us. It teaches us about perseverance, ambition, and the importance of never losing sight of our dreams even when the road ahead is unclear. El Dorado remains relevant because it represents something eternal in the human experience, the desire to seek to explore, to grow, and to leave a lasting impact. In a world filled with challenges, uncertainty, and rapid change, the myth reminds us that there is always something worth striving for. The Golden City may remain just beyond the horizon, but the pursuit of it, the belief that something better lies ahead, is the true treasure. The landscape stretches before you vast and uncharted. Yet now it feels less like a place you must conquer and more like a world you can explore. There is no golden city waiting at the end of this path, no treasure buried deep within the earth, but there is something just as valuable: the understanding that the journey itself, each step you take, each challenge you overcome, is where the real value lies. El Dorado, once a literal city of gold, has become the symbol of the personal and collective quests we undertake throughout our lives. It's no longer about a singular destination, but about the pursuit of something greater than ourselves. As the world enters the future, the myth of El Dorado is woven into the fabric of modern life in a way that transcends any one pursuit. Today, we are faced with the quest for a sustainable planet, social justice, innovation, and human connection. These are the modern-day treasures that we seek, and much like the explorers of the past, we encounter challenges, setbacks, and obstacles that often seem insurmountable. However, the essence of El Dorado lives on in our shared commitment to move forward, to dream bigger, and to believe that the impossible can be achieved through persistence, resilience, and hope. In the realms of scientific exploration, the search for El Dorado is now found in the pursuit of knowledge, whether it's discovering cures for diseases, uncovering the mysteries of space, or unlocking the potential of artificial intelligence. These are the golden cities we chase today, and although the path to discovery is fraught with uncertainty and failure, the belief that these breakthroughs will ultimately make the world better drives us forward. The pursuit itself becomes the treasure, as each discovery, no matter how small, contributes to the greater good. In the social and political spheres, the search for El Dorado is represented by the quest for equality, justice, and peace. Activists, leaders, and citizens alike are striving to build a world where everyone has an equal chance to thrive. Like the explorers who ventured into the unknown to bring back riches, today's changemakers venture into complex and often turbulent terrain, hoping to create a more just and compassionate society. And while the full realization of this dream may still seem distant, the effort itself is invaluable. Personal growth, too, remains a modern version of the El Dorado myth. In our individual lives, we all have our own golden city, our personal ideal of success, happiness, and fulfillment. The quest to better ourselves, whether through education, relationships, career, or spirituality, is a journey that mirrors the timeless pursuit of El Dorado. It's not about reaching perfection, but about making progress, learning from setbacks, and continuing to strive for something better. And like the explorers who never stopped seeking, we too learn and grow with every step we take, discovering new facets of ourselves along the way. While the literal search for El Dorado may have ended long ago, the quest for personal and collective transformation remains ongoing. In this sense, El Dorado has become more than just a myth. It is a powerful metaphor for the human drive to dream big, to push past limitations, and to seek out the highest ideals no matter how distant they may seem. The Golden City may never be fully realized, but the pursuit itself remains the essence of our journey. As the world moves forward, the myth of El Dorado continues to inspire those who dare to dream. The pursuit of knowledge, justice, self-improvement, and a better world for all is the modern-day quest for the Golden City. And, while the obstacles may be great, and the end goal may seem ever out of reach, it is the drive to keep moving forward that defines us. El Dorado, in its many forms, is alive in the hearts of all who chase the dream of something greater. Historians may debate the truth behind the original El Dorado myth, but what is undeniable is its continued power to inspire. It represents the best of human nature, the courage to dream, the resilience to overcome challenges, and the hope that through perseverance we can build a better world. El Dorado, then, is not a lost city of gold, but a timeless symbol of the human spirit's capacity to dream, to reach for the stars, and to keep searching for the treasure that lies just beyond the horizon. You stand still, watching the sky as the stars begin to twinkle above, feeling a deep sense of connection to the vastness of the world around you. The journey that led you here, the trials, the hopes, the failures, has reshaped you. El Dorado, that golden city that once filled your every thought, is no longer a place you need to find. Instead, it's become a part of you, woven into the very fabric of your being. The true treasure isn't a city of gold, but the growth, wisdom, and understanding you've gained in your quest. The Golden City was never out there. It was inside you all along. El Dorado's influence remains profound even today, because it speaks to something universal in the human experience. Throughout history, the myth has represented the never-ending pursuit of something better, something greater. The journey is what shapes us, and the pursuit of our dreams is what defines our lives. Today, the search for El Dorado continues in every corner of society. It's found in the aspirations of scientists, artists, activists, and individuals striving to make a difference in the world. The modern interpretation of El Dorado is not rooted in gold or material wealth, but in the ideal of progress, the belief that we can always move forward, create new solutions, and build a better future. The spirit of El Dorado lives on in the fight for social justice, climate action, innovation, and personal growth. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible and daring to imagine a world where we can overcome the challenges we face. As we confront the complexities of the 21st century, El Dorado has become a metaphor for the dreams we chase, the goals we pursue, and the obstacles we face. It's not just about discovering a place, it's about creating something meaningful. Whether it's through scientific research that uncovers new possibilities for human life or social movements that seek to create equality and justice, the pursuit of El Dorado is now about building a world that reflects our highest ideals. In our personal lives, the myth of El Dorado persists as well. We are all chasing something, a career, a relationship, a sense of peace and fulfillment. We each have our own golden city to pursue, and, like the explorers who sought the mythical city, we encounter setbacks, challenges, and doubts along the way. But it's the journey itself that matters. It's through the struggles and triumphs that we discover who we are and what we're capable of. The pursuit of El Dorado reminds us that the value is in the pursuit itself, not just in reaching the final destination. The myth has also been adapted to new forms in our modern media. Films, books, and games continue to portray the quest for El Dorado, though now the city of gold is often symbolic of a larger goal. It may represent the search for truth, happiness, or understanding. The endless pursuit of an unattainable dream still captures the imagination of people across the world, and it serves as a reminder that even if the Golden City is never found, the act of searching, of striving for something better, holds its own intrinsic value. El Dorado, like many myths, remains relevant because it reflects a fundamental part of being human, the drive to reach beyond what we know and achieve something greater. It challenges us to dream big, to face the unknown, and to embrace the uncertainty that comes with the pursuit of lofty ideals. In doing so, we make meaning out of the journey itself. The myth is not about a literal place, but about the endless human quest for fulfillment, knowledge, and progress. Whether it's in the pursuit of scientific discovery, the fight for social change, or our own personal growth, the spirit of El Dorado lives on. The Golden City may remain just beyond our reach, but in our collective pursuit of progress, we find that the journey itself is worth more than the treasure we might find at the end. El Dorado has become a symbol of our shared humanity, the belief that we can achieve the impossible, that the quest for something greater is what makes us truly human. Historians, explorers, and dreamers will continue to debate the origins of El Dorado, but its enduring legacy remains undeniable. The myth continues to inspire us, to drive us forward, and to remind us that the pursuit of something beyond ourselves is the essence of the human spirit. It is not the city that matters, but the dream that motivates us to keep moving forward, to keep striving, to keep believing. The sky is dark, now filled with stars, and the cool night air wraps around you like a blanket. You've traveled so far through trials and triumphs, and yet the end of your journey feels less like a conclusion and more like a new beginning. The myth of El Dorado, that golden city you once sought with such fervor, is no longer the focus of your thoughts. It's not a physical place, but a reflection of the aspirations that drive you forward. The real treasure has always been the pursuit, the act of striving for something greater than yourself. And now, as you stand on the precipice of something new, you realize that the true legacy of El Dorado isn't about the city. It's about the human spirit unyielding in its pursuit of meaning, discovery, and hope. In the world today, El Dorado continues to live on as a powerful symbol of human ambition. The quest for a better future, for personal fulfillment, and for meaningful progress mirrors the ancient search for the Golden City. The myth has evolved, adapting to the needs and challenges of each era. While the explorers of old sought gold, the dreamers of today seek knowledge, justice, sustainability, and innovation. The Golden City has become a symbol not of material wealth, but of our shared desire to create a world where we can all thrive. The pursuit of El Dorado in this sense reflects the most fundamental human trait, the desire to improve, to grow, and to reach beyond what is known. As humanity faces complex global issues from climate change to social inequality, the spirit of El Dorado continues to inspire. The search for the Golden City has become a metaphor for the quest to create a sustainable, just, and equitable world. It drives people to innovate, to question the status quo, and to believe that change is possible no matter how daunting the path may seem. In personal terms, the myth of El Dorado remains a guiding light for those who chase their own dreams. The Golden City in this context is not a place to be found, but a vision of what could be a life of purpose, fulfillment, and connection. Whether it's in the pursuit of career goals, relationships, or personal growth, El Dorado represents the highest aspirations we have for ourselves. It's the belief that we can be better, do better, and make a positive impact on the world around us. And while the pursuit of such goals may not always be easy, it's the journey that gives life its richness and meaning. The myth continues to appear in art, literature, and media, where El Dorado is often reimagined as the ultimate goal, a place of utopian perfection. Yet, in most modern interpretations, it is not a literal city, but a metaphor for the dreams we chase. The pursuit of El Dorado is not about arriving at a fixed destination, but about the transformation we undergo in striving for something greater. The journey shapes who we are, what we value, and how we view the world. As we look to the future, El Dorado remains a symbol of hope and possibility. It reminds us that the quest for something meaningful is part of the human experience, and it urges us to keep pushing forward even when the end goal seems distant or unreachable. The Golden City may never be found in the literal sense, but the pursuit of it, the search for a better world, for personal fulfillment, for progress, is what will continue to drive humanity forward. The modern world is filled with its own versions of El Dorado ideas, and ideals that seem just beyond our reach, yet are worth striving for. Whether it's creating a sustainable environment, achieving universal equality, or advancing technology for the benefit of all, the spirit of El Dorado lives on in these pursuits. And just as the explorers of the past ventured into the unknown with hope and determination, so too do we face an uncertain future with the same unwavering belief that something better is possible. Ultimately, El Dorado isn't a city to be found. It's a way of thinking, a mindset that pushes us to keep moving forward, to dream big, and to believe in the possibility of a better world. The pursuit is the treasure, and as long as humanity continues to dream and strive for something greater, the spirit of El Dorado will remain alive. It will continue to shape our journeys, inspire our endeavors, and remind us that the search for the Golden City is a reflection of the most beautiful and profound aspect of being human, the endless desire to reach for the stars. The stars above you shine brightly, a celestial map guiding you forward. The path you've taken, though winding and full of challenges, has brought you to a place where the destination is no longer as important as the journey itself. You've reached a realization El Dorado, the Golden City, was never just about gold. It was always about what you learned along the way, the growth, the resilience, and the unshakable belief that there is always more to discover, more to understand, and more to strive for. And even though the Golden City remains elusive, the journey continues to unfold rich with the promise of new horizons. The myth of El Dorado, with its complex layers of ambition, exploration, and discovery, remains as relevant as ever. Today, as we face unprecedented challenges on a global scale, the spirit of El Dorado serves as a reminder of the human capacity for hope, perseverance, and progress. While the Golden City may be a thing of legend, the pursuit of ideals, whether they be scientific, social, or personal, remains a fundamental part of the human experience. We continue to seek out new frontiers, to build a better future, and to challenge ourselves to go further, to dream bigger, and to push the boundaries of what is possible. The modern search for El Dorado is found not in the jungles of South America, but in the pursuit of a more just, sustainable, and equitable world. The global challenges we face, climate change, inequality, health crises, represent the new frontiers we must explore. And just as the conquistadors ventured into unknown territories in search of gold, today's explorers Scientists, activists, leaders, and innovators are tackling the unknown, seeking solutions to problems that seem insurmountable. The quest for El Dorado in this context is the quest for a better world. A world where humanity thrives in harmony with the planet and with each other. El Dorado is no longer just a city. It is an ideal, a dream of what could be. It has evolved into a symbol of the highest aspirations we hold for ourselves and for the world. And, while the journey toward these ideals is fraught with difficulties, it is the pursuit itself that shapes us. The pursuit of knowledge, justice, peace, and innovation continues to define our collective mission. In many ways, the modern-day El Dorado is the belief that we can create a future that is more sustainable, more just, and more inclusive. In personal terms, El Dorado still speaks to the journey of self-improvement. Each person has their own version of the Golden City, a vision of what they want to achieve, whether it's success, love, peace, or happiness. Just as the explorers faced setbacks on their quests, we too face challenges on our personal journeys. Yet, it's the resilience to keep going, to continue striving, even when the end goal seems distant, that defines the pursuit of El Dorado in our lives. The city may never be found, but the lessons learned along the way, the growth we experience, and the people we become are the true treasures of the journey. The myth of El Dorado also lives on in the stories we tell. In books, movies, and games, the quest for the Golden City is often reimagined, symbolizing the human drive to pursue what is just out of reach. These stories reflect the belief that even in failure there is value. Just as the explorers of old faced hardships, setbacks, and disappointment in their quest for El Dorado, so too do the heroes of modern stories face obstacles. But in their perseverance, they find something deeper: growth, connection, and the understanding that the pursuit of the dream is what makes the journey worthwhile. As we move forward, the search for El Dorado remains a universal symbol of the human spirit's drive to reach beyond the known and to embrace the unknown. The Golden City may be a distant dream, but it is the pursuit that continues to shape the world and inspire those who dare to dream. Whether we are working to solve global challenges or striving to improve our own lives, the pursuit of something greater will always be a part of who we are. El Dorado, in the end, is not a place, it is a journey. It is the belief that there is always something more to discover, to learn, and to achieve. And as long as we keep dreaming, striving, and reaching for something better, the spirit of El Dorado will continue to guide us. As the last rays of the setting sun fade into the horizon, a sense of tranquility settles in. You've been on a long and winding journey, one that has shaped you in ways you never expected. The Golden City you sought, once so elusive, now feels almost irrelevant in comparison to the personal transformation you've undergone. You've discovered that the pursuit of El Dorado was never just about finding treasure, but about discovering your own potential, about learning how to keep moving forward despite the obstacles, and about understanding that growth is the true reward. In the modern world, the myth of El Dorado continues to inspire. While the literal search for a city of gold may have ended centuries ago, the metaphorical search remains. The quest for knowledge, justice, and progress is as vital today as it was when the first conquistadors set out on their ill-fated journeys. Whether we're exploring the vastness of space, addressing climate change, or striving for equality, we are all still in search of our own version of El Dorado, our own version of something greater, something worth pursuing. The challenges we face today are not dissimilar to those faced by the explorers of the past. We are confronted with questions that seem insurmountable. How do we solve global inequalities? how can we protect the planet for future generations? How do we build a better world in a time of uncertainty and division? But just as the explorers pressed on despite their failures, we too are called to continue our pursuit to keep striving for a better tomorrow, even when the path seems unclear. The spirit of El Dorado remains alive in every person who dares to take on these challenges, to believe that a better world is within reach. In this sense, the modern quest for El Dorado is a pursuit of collective progress. It's about reaching beyond the status quo, dreaming of a world where humanity can live in harmony with the earth and each other. It's about the belief that even though the journey may be long and difficult, the effort is worth it. Whether we are working toward a sustainable future, creating new technologies, or fighting for justice, the pursuit of El Dorado is a symbol of hope, a belief that we can make a meaningful difference in the world, and that even the smallest steps forward can lead to great change. El Dorado also lives on in our personal quests. For many, the Golden City represents a vision of success, fulfillment, or happiness, something that seems just beyond our reach. The search for El Dorado has become a symbol for the pursuit of our own dreams. Whether it's in the pursuit of career success, building lasting relationships, or finding inner peace, we all chase our own versions of the Golden City. The pursuit itself, just like the journey of the explorers, becomes as valuable as the destination. The myth of El Dorado in this sense is timeless. It speaks to the universal human experience of striving for something greater, of reaching for the stars, and of daring to believe that the impossible is within our grasp. It reminds us that life is not just about achieving a goal, but about the growth we experience along the way. The search for El Dorado is about resilience, perseverance, and the understanding that the journey itself can be a treasure. Even though we may never find the Golden City, the spirit of El Dorado continues to shape our world. It encourages us to dream big, to tackle the challenges we face, and to keep moving forward, even when the road ahead is uncertain. And, as long as we continue to dream, strive and pursue what seems impossible, the spirit of El Dorado will remain alive in us, guiding us toward a brighter future. The stars shine brightly in the night sky above you, offering a quiet reassurance. It feels as if the universe itself is watching, guiding you forward with an unspoken promise. The Golden City you once sought so desperately now feels like a distant memory, a part of your past that no longer holds the same pull. What remains is the journey itself, the lessons learned, the resilience built, and the deep understanding that life's greatest treasures are not found at the end of the road, but in the path we take to get there. El Dorado. The symbol of the unreachable continues to resonate in today's world, though its meaning has evolved over time. Once a literal quest for gold, it has transformed into a metaphor for the pursuit of human potential, social progress, and environmental sustainability. Whether in the relentless fight against climate change, the search for cures to global diseases, or the ongoing struggle for human rights and equality, the quest for El Dorado persists in the form of modern-day endeavors that push the boundaries of what we know and believe is possible. The spirit of El Dorado is no longer limited to physical treasure. It now encompasses the treasures of knowledge, compassion, and innovation that drive us toward a better world. The myth of El Dorado continues to influence the way we approach challenges and adversity. The explorers of the past faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles, but their determination to continue in the face of uncertainty and failure is a quality that lives on in us today. As individuals and societies, we are still facing global challenges, but we are also finding new ways to approach them, whether through innovation, collaboration, or a renewed sense of purpose. Just as the explorers did not give up despite the unrelenting wilderness, we too must push forward, holding on to the belief that progress is possible, even when the end goal seems far out of reach. The modern search for El Dorado in many ways is found in the creation of a more sustainable, equitable, and inclusive world. While the physical city of gold may not exist, the idea that we can build a better future is a form of El Dorado in itself. The pursuit of social justice, environmental protection, and global peace is the new Golden City, one that is attainable not by a single individual or group, but by the collective effort of humanity. Like the explorers who ventured into uncharted territory, today's global changemakers are stepping into the unknown with hope, courage, and a vision for a brighter tomorrow. This modern quest reflects the evolution of the myth of El Dorado, where the treasure we seek is not a material one, but one of collective well-being. The global challenges we face today demand that we work together, learn from our mistakes, and find solutions that benefit all of humanity. Whether it's creating sustainable technologies, ending poverty, or addressing systemic injustices, the spirit of El Dorado lives on in these global efforts to create a better world for future generations. Even in our personal lives, the pursuit of El Dorado persists. Each of us has our own vision of success, fulfillment, and happiness, our own golden city. Whether it's through personal growth, professional achievement, or finding peace and contentment, the journey toward our personal El Dorado is a constant thread that runs through our lives. Like the explorers of the past, we face setbacks and challenges along the way. But it is the act of striving, of continuously moving forward, despite the difficulties, that shapes us into the people we are meant to become. El Dorado, then, is not just about the physical city. It is about the relentless human drive to explore, discover, and improve. The pursuit of our dreams, the search for answers to life's great questions, and the desire to leave the world better than we found it are all expressions of the spirit of El Dorado. The myth remains timeless because it speaks to the essence of being human, the need to dream, to reach for something greater, and to continue pursuing that vision no matter how elusive it may seem. As we look to the future, the spirit of El Dorado continues to guide us. It reminds us that the journey is just as important as the destination, and that the pursuit of something greater than ourselves is what gives life meaning. The Golden City may remain out of reach, but the belief in the possibility of a better world, the belief that progress is always within our grasp, is the true treasure. The night is calm, and the world around you feels at peace. The journey has been long, but in the quiet of this moment you understand that El Dorado, once a symbol of unattainable wealth, is not a place at all. It's not a city of gold waiting to be found. It's a vision, a symbol of everything that drives us as human beings. The dream of El Dorado is not about the end goal, but about the process. The growth, the discoveries, the connections we make, and the hope that there's always something greater to strive for. As you reflect on your journey, you realize that the search for El Dorado is not an isolated quest. It's a universal experience shared by every individual, every generation, every civilization. From the earliest explorers to modern innovators, the spirit of El Dorado. The desire to find something better, to discover new horizons, and to improve the world around us remains constant. The Golden City may not exist in a physical sense, but its meaning lives on in every endeavor to make the world better, more just, and more sustainable. The pursuit of El Dorado in the modern world continues to fuel advancements in every field. In science, medicine, and technology, we are constantly pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Scientists are looking for cures to diseases, pushing the frontiers of space and uncovering new technologies that promise to transform the world. This pursuit of knowledge, of discovering the unknown, mirrors the spirit of the explorers who once sought El Dorado. They ventured into uncharted territories, believing that they would find something extraordinary, something that would change the course of history. Today, we do the same, reaching for the stars, believing that we can unlock the secrets of the universe and use that knowledge to make life better for all. In the social and political realms, the search for El Dorado is found in the quest for justice, equality, and human rights. People are coming together not just to find gold, but to fight for a better world. From activists and leaders to ordinary citizens, there is a collective drive to address systemic issues such as poverty, inequality, and climate change. The modern-day El Dorado is no longer a physical place, but a vision of a world where every person has the opportunity to thrive. It's a world where the dream of a fair and just society can be realized, where resources are shared more equitably, and where future generations inherit a planet that is healthy, sustainable, and free from exploitation. On a personal level, the myth of El Dorado continues to inspire individuals in their own quests for happiness, fulfillment, and self-actualization. Each of us has our own version of El Dorado, our own dreams and goals that seem just beyond reach. The pursuit of these goals, whether they are related to career success, personal relationships, or inner peace, is the modern-day equivalent of the explorer's quest. The challenges we face along the way, the lessons we learn, and the growth we experience are the true treasures of the journey. And yet, just as the explorers of the past encountered difficulties, so too do we face obstacles on our own paths. But the pursuit of El Dorado teaches us that it is the struggle itself, the perseverance and resilience in the face of adversity, that defines us. Whether we succeed or fail, the journey shapes us into who we are meant to become. The search for El Dorado is not about finding the perfect end, but about embracing the process, the willingness to strive to learn, and to grow along the way. In the end, El Dorado represents the human spirit's unyielding drive to reach for something greater. It is a reminder that while we may never fully realize our dreams, the pursuit of those dreams is what gives our lives purpose and meaning. The Golden City is not a physical destination, but a reflection of our collective desire for something better, something that will elevate humanity to new heights. The myth of El Dorado lives on, because it reminds us that the most valuable treasures are found not in gold, but in the journey we undertake to achieve our greatest aspirations. Now, as the night deepens, the stillness settles in. You have traveled far, both physically and mentally, and the path ahead seems as open as the stars above you. The pursuit of El Dorado may never end, but that's the beauty of it. The search itself is the treasure. And as long as we continue to dream, to strive, and to believe in the possibility of something greater, the spirit of El Dorado will live on, guiding us toward the future.